So this is not to dunk on anybody that I mentored, because everyone I mentored was amazing. But when I did mentor people, after a few years, I kind of realized that there were two categories of people when they were first starting to work on their fashion brands. And the first category would be people that were very involved, who really were trying very hard, who made time for this, even though they were busy. Everybody I mentored was always busy, of course. And then the second category of people was people that would always have excuses for everything, right? Constantly with an excuse. I'd be trying to motivate them and trying to check in on them. They'd be like, oh, I'm so busy. So for instance, if I'd start working with them in the beginning of summer, they'd be like, oh, okay, I want to work on my brand, but things are just so crazy right now with the summer and the kids are out of school. Hopefully in the fall, I'll get some work done. The fall would roll around, the same thing would happen with the excuses. Oh, my job is crazy. The kids back to school stuff is nuts. Then the holidays would roll around. I'd be trying to motivate them, and sometimes there's just there's nothing I can say. Oh, hopefully in the new year, I'm gonna get more time to work on my brand. And at this point, I would kind of throw my hands up and be like, at some point, your success comes down to your personality and how determined you are to fit this into your life. Hey everybody, welcome to The Thread. My name is Kendall. This is a show where we talk all about the foundational aspects of starting your fashion brand, the things you can and you should do at the very beginning that are so important to really build a solid foundation. The pre-development stage, the idea stage, call it whatever you want, but we're tackling all of these little things that end up being very important later on if you skip them, which a lot of people do. So today we are talking about time management. And I know you can Google time management tips for entrepreneurs and it'll be use the Pomodoro technique. I'm not talking about that today. I am talking about some real tips and advice I have for when you start working on your brand and you're super overwhelmed with everything, because that's what always happens. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is the people that I've mentored for my job as a mentor. By the way, I was a former mentor for several years for people starting their brand from scratch. I also had my own fashion brand for 7 years. So people would always ask me at the beginning, do you have any tips for time management? Because I am so overwhelmed and I don't know what I should be doing first. I don't know how much time I should be spending on working on a brand, what's normal. So we're going to talk about that today. And I have some pieces of advice that I've learned over the years and just from mentoring people. So you can always Google time management tips, but I have come to realize you have to really manage your time in a way that works for you. So that's my first thing I want to talk about. So for instance, my husband has for years tried to get me to have an online Kanban board or something online where I can have a to-do list, because I'm a real big to-do list person. And it's never going to happen because the way I operate, I need to have it on paper and I need to see it every day. I have a Moleskine planner that I buy every single year, the same one every year. And I also have a wall calendar. I need to physically see stuff in front of me. So you need to really find kind of a way to organize yourself that works for you. You don't need to take advice from, some kind of, blog or something that's oh, you have to use this time management system. Do what's going to work for you and what's going to keep you organized. Okay, so my second thing I want to say is that I would start by, my cat's in the background. She's looking for breakfast. I would start by doing a time audit of yourself, right? So that just means take 2 or 3 days and write down every single thing that you do. And more importantly, have a good hard look at your screen time and see where you're spending your time, how much time you're spending on social media or playing games on your phone. I'm guilty of that, but it's just something I like doing. But I know now, like, if I need to find time for something, I have these pockets of time that I spend basically wasting that I can pull from and I can get something done. So take a really good look at your screen time and be honest with yourself. This is not to judge yourself, right? This is to say, okay, wow, I thought I only spent like 30 minutes on Instagram, but I usually spend an hour and a half on Instagram every day. So you know that, okay, you're not maybe as busy as you think you are. And if you need to get something done with your brand, which you do, to start working on it, you have a place that you can pull from, right? You can say, okay, no social media on Wednesdays. I'm putting my head down. I'm just working on my brand. So the key that I want to talk about is that you need to find a way to fit this into your life and make it a part of your life on a regular basis. Regular basis is the key, right? If you're starting any hobby, a fitness routine, a diet, you have to find a way to make it a part of your life, not just something extra that you do and forget about, right? So usually that means we have to schedule it at first. We have to kind of shoehorn it into our day or our week at first, but it needs to become a regular part of your life. This is what the people that I was talking about in the beginning never did. I truly think that they were waiting for a time when some free time was going to fall into their lap, and it's just never going to happen, right? Anybody who's ever started any brand or any project, anything big, any business, has been busy, right? And they find a way to make it work. I would say, I can think of one person I mentored that didn't have kids or a full-time job. Well, she might have worked full-time, but she didn't have children. Most of the people I worked with actually like had families and or had full-time jobs. Like, you have to find a way to just make it work. So I want you to look at your schedule after doing a time audit for a day or two or three and looking at your screen time. Make a schedule and truly just try to work this into your week several times a week at least, if not a little bit every single day. Because that's what's really gonna make it real for you and make this a real part of your life. Something that you think about it every day, right? It's part of your life. You're gonna work on it. You're making slow but steady progress. And it will feel slow. That's what everybody tells me. It will feel like I'm not doing enough. But if you just do a little bit every day or several times a week, that's all that you can do. That's the most you can do. And it just takes time, and you have to realize that at the beginning, right? I think part of the reason a lot of people don't get to the launch stage that they originally wanted to is because they have these high expectations of like something, right? It's going to go super fast, and I'm going to get this all done. I'm going to launch this brand in like a few months. It's funny because sometimes when I used to interview people, let's say it'd be the spring, and I'd say, oh, when's your ideal time to launch? And they'd say, this fall. And I had to break it to them that they are not going to launch within a few months. It is going to take probably usually about a year, sometimes a year and a half, depending on how busy you are. So I just want you to know that up top, it's going to take a while. It's going to feel slow. But if you work on this consistently, you are going to eventually see progress, especially when you get to the later stages, when you start making bigger moves and it feels more consequential. You can't do that until you find little pockets of time throughout your day and your week to just get little things done. Okay, so next topic or next piece of advice I have for you. Make a to-do list, but break it into larger and smaller things that you can do. So that way, if let's say you have a full-time job and you have like an hour for lunch, so you can fit a little bit in, but you can't get into anything that major because you need to go get lunch, you need to get back to work on time, you can't do anything big. So maybe that's a day where you take something from the small to-do list. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to one fabric supplier every day, or I'm gonna do some online research for fabric suppliers, or I'm gonna do sketches, I'm gonna do editing, something like that. I'm gonna start an Instagram account, like a little tiny thing that doesn't take much time. And then on the other hand, you have a to-do list of a larger things. Maybe it's building a landing page, researching what email list type of thing you wanna use and get that set up. Building your website or something like that, thinking about your website, starting to explore branding. So there's lots of bigger things and there's lots of little things. And I think the reason people get overwhelmed is because you're looking at all of it all at once instead of breaking it down into small, actionable steps that you can take every day. Okay, so I really think that will help. If you want, you can even break it into 3 lists. Tiny things that take 5 minutes, bigger things that might take a half hour, and larger projects that maybe you want to save for a little bit later. And again, do this in the way that works for you. If you're a person that likes to put everything down on paper and you get a special notebook for this, that's great. If you like things online, if you like to keep notes on your phone, just make it accessible for you in a way that works for your life. Okay, so my next tip is to plan for the whole year in advance at once. Now, this might be something, if you're at the very beginning stages, you barely start and you're watching this, you're like, oh my God. But if you're kind of like getting into starting to work on your brand, or you're getting into like the development stages, you're meeting with a pattern maker, that type of thing, you're at that stage, you can start taking this on. So this took me years to realize, so I'm hopefully saving you a lot of time here. What I would do is buy like a big desk calendar, like a big paper one that you can just flip the pages. And that would only be for my business. Nothing else. I'm not putting like school dates on there. I'm not putting my personal appointments on there. It's just for my brand. And then, so start at the end of the year and work backwards is what I would do. So instead of being frantic when, you know, May or June rolls around, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing for the fall? Work backwards, right? So you're prepared. So let's say, think about when you would want to release stuff for the fall, just as an example. Like I said, if you're very early on, you don't need to worry about this yet, but keep this in mind. Fall, people usually release things for the fall season in like late August, sometimes even like mid to late August. So put that on your calendar and then work backwards. When does your factory need to get everything that they need, the tech packs, the samples, the patterns, all of that, in order to make it to being production ready before that time, right? And you might need to even be done earlier. Maybe you need some samples made for a photo shoot. When do you want to have the photo shoot? Like maybe you want to have this at least a month in advance because your photographer needs, you know, 3 weeks to edit your photos, something like that. So start to work backwards. And like I said, I only realized this probably in the last year or two of my business. I only started doing this. Up until then, I was just like a hot mess, feeling behind every single season. But this will help you so much if you work backwards for the end of the year. Once you have the big things in place, then you can start putting like the weekly things in place. Like, okay, every Monday, I'm gonna work on an email. Every Wednesday, I'm going to get to customer emails. Every Friday, I'm going to be, you know, batching my social media content for the week. Something like that. You can get into the nitty gritty, but you have it all in one place. It's only your brand. You look at it every day and you feel like you're in control because you have a handle on the year ahead. Okay. So those are my tips. I'm trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter and more bite-sized. So I hopefully gave you all of my main tips that will help you guys kind of navigate this overwhelming feeling And as for what's a normal amount to work on your business, I would say there's really no normal, because everybody has kind of a different schedule and a different amount of time that they can spend. But I would say, position it to be where you're doing a little bit every day. Like I said, being consistent every day if you can. If this kills you, then just do it a few times a week. But don't get to the point where you're burning yourself out because you read that, oh my God. So, I remember reading once this entrepreneur that I loved. She said, I started working on my brand 80-hour weeks. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I have to be doing that. You don't have to be doing that. That is an outlier. You don't have to be doing that. You definitely can if you want to, but there's no should, right? This is specific to you and whatever you feel comfortable with. And I definitely want you to stop before you get to the burnout stage. If you're a busy mom, you put your kids to bed and then you feel like you've got to stay up till midnight doing this, and then you're tired and you're a mess the next day, I'd say walk it back. Make it fit into your life in a way that you're enjoying it. At least, you're working hard, you're being diligent, but you're enjoying it. So those are my tips. I really hope that this helped you guys. Please like and please subscribe. That would really help me a lot. Please leave comments if you want to, and share this with anybody that's starting their brand. I hope that I can help you guys. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.